Okay, so this video is how to cut and sew a muslin mock-up to test your jean basic block pattern pieces. In this video, I'm going to move along really quickly because you've already been through the process several times on how to block your fabric, how to do a pin pull, how to get all your grain lines in here, and how to cut and sew your pattern pieces. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just move through it quickly. You can follow along with me and hit pause and keep catching up to me. And then when we do the sewing part, I'll show you a few things that we're going to do different because this is jeans. So we're going to sew it up a little bit different than we did on the basic sloper as well as when we did the contour trouser pant. Alright, so let's get started on this. Basically you need your muslin, scissors, sewing machine, iron, ironing board, all the usual tools. What I've done here is I've blocked out 4 pieces of muslin that will fit my front and back pattern pieces. I already have my pin pull for my grain line inside of here all the way through. I didn't do a hip level line yet, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you we can move along a little bit quicker by just lining up our pattern piece with this grain line, and then we'll get our horizontal balance line and our knee level line in here when we cut the pattern pieces out. So basically I have 2 for the back and 2 for the front. So go ahead and block your muslin now. Okay, so now that you've blocked out 4 pieces, 2 for the front, 2 for the back, and you did your pin pull and you marked in your grain lines, take 2 of them, and what we're going to do is where we have the pencil mark, this is going to be the correct side up. And what we want to do is we want to have these wrong sides together. That way when we lay out our pattern piece, we can put all of our marks and stuff here on the wrong side or on the correct side, and then flip it over and we can also get our marks here on the correct side. So put these wrong sides together and make sure your grain lines are perfectly stacked right on top of each other, and pin these 2 muslins so they do not shift, and then let's go ahead and cut out our pattern piece. So go ahead and cut out your patterns all the way through, and again make sure that your grain line is facing out so you have these wrong sides together, so then we can transfer our marks here onto the right side of the fabric. Okay, so now that you've cut out your front and back pattern pieces, let's go ahead and get all of our markings together. Let's start up here at the front, up at the top. Alright, let's do our notches together. We'll start here at the top at center front. Now for me, I'm going to cut the small little triangles because it's easier for you to see in the video. Let's follow along the pattern piece here. This is our inseam coming down here, and we have a double notch. And then let's move this over. We have the knee level at the side seam, and we have a single notch. And then let's come up here to the pocket area, and we have a notch here for matching up all the different pocket layers. Take out your pencil, make sure it's nice and sharp, and let's get some of our drill holes and our markings that are going to go in the middle of the fabric. Come over here to the horizontal bounce line at center front, and we have the square for our zip stop. Now I've already done a drill hole in my pattern piece using my awl tool. If you don't have a drill hole yet, be sure to put a piece of tape on top of this, and then you can go ahead and just poke through all layers. Again, when you poke through to the back, come back towards the front. And I'm turning my pencil inside of here so I can get a nice dark mark on both sides. Now I'm going to follow center front right here to the crotch level. I'm going to continue center front all the way down to the knee level. Now I'm leaving my pins in my pattern piece here at knee level, but I took all my other pins out above here. Now I can come in here and I can see my 3 drill holes for center front. And remember, once you get to the zip stop and you continue on center front to the notch, it's a different angle. So make sure you change this angle from this angle. And let's get our center front here on the other side. We also want to have our horizontal bounce line going all the way through. What I'm going to do is right here at the horizontal balance line, I'm going to go ahead and just poke through all layers right at the seam. And now I can go from the zip stop over to that horizontal bounce line. And I'm also making sure that it's square with the grain line and I'm not making any mistakes on this. And we'll get the HBL on this side as well. Come down here to the knee level. So we already punched through at center front. Let's come over here to the seam allowance at the knee level and poke through. We could put a line in for the knee level, and remember, this does not match up perfectly with the notch because the notch is at an angle. Now let's just come back here and double check. You have a single notch at the side seam knee, a double notch at the inseam. You have a notch here at center front and a notch here where all the pocket layers are going to match up. We have the horizontal bounce line. Down here is the zip stop. Let's go ahead and circle that so you don't forget. Then we have our center front on the front and the back. And we also have our knee level on the front and the back. And the horizontal bounce line is here on the front and the back. All right, take out your back pattern piece and we're going to do the same thing again. Let's start with the notches. And we'll start up here at the top. We have a double notch here where the back yoke is going to sew to the back main body. Continuing on, here's our notch that matches all of the pocket layers from the front side seam. Coming along the side seam at the knee level, we have a single notch. And then the inseam at the knee level has a double notch. And for the beginners, if you want to have a notch here on the back crotch level, you could put it wherever you want. For me, after the radius is finished turning and it becomes a straight line, that's a good spot to just put a double notch in here, 1/4 inch apart. And this is more helpful for the beginners. As you sew more and more pants, obviously you'll know that this is the back crotch seam. Alright, let's come in here and let's get some of our markings in the middle of the pattern piece. I've left the pins right here at the knee level. And I just left one pin up here at the top to make sure nothing moves. Now I've already put in my drill holes with my awl tool. If you're going to punch through the pattern piece, make sure you're putting a piece of tape before you punch through. Alright, so let's come down here to the crotch level at center back. And let's get the center back line right there, and also down here at the knee level. And then go ahead and come in here and we'll draw our center back line going from the knee level all the way up to the top. Now let's come up here. I want to get my horizontal balance line. Again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just poke through right at the seam. I'm going to poke through right at the seam at the horizontal balance line. And we'll do the same thing again down here at the knee level. Alright, up here at the pocket, let's take a closer look at this. Now I want to make sure my pattern piece does not shift, so I'm going to go ahead and pin this back in place, making sure my grain line is still perfectly lined up. On mine, I've already put a drill hole on all 5 of these corners. If you're poking through, just make sure you put a piece of tape on all of these corners and we'll poke through. Also keep in mind that if you're making a production pattern piece, these drill holes would actually be inside the pocket. So after you sew the patch pocket on there, you don't see the drill holes going through because it's going to match up with the stitches. For us, since we're doing basic pattern making and we're just trying to establish a block foundation, we can go ahead and do our drill holes exactly where the edges of the pocket is going to line up. Now for the beginners, if you want to, you can go ahead and mark this in lightly with your pencil, and this will help guide you as you're laying your pocket on top of here when we're sewing it later. Alright, let's double check everything. So we've got our horizontal balance line, we have our center back line, we have our knee level line. And then of course we chalked in where the pocket's going to go. Let's make sure we have everything here on the back side as well. Okay, let's talk through the other pattern pieces. For my pants, I'm going to do the contour waistband, no belt loops, and she's not going to wear this with a belt. If you're going to do the same thing with me, you're going to want to cut 4 of these waistbands out, making sure you're following the grain. So block out a piece of fabric large enough to where you can fold it in half, match up your grain lines, and then come in here and cut 2 and another 2, so we have 4 total. Okay, take out your back yoke pattern piece and your front facing pattern piece. Both of these pattern pieces are about the same size, and also the grain line is here off to this side. So we can cut these out together. What we're going to want is 2, so let's label this cut 2, cut 2. Then you can block out a piece of muslin, put your grain line on there, fold this so we have 2 layers, and then we can come in here, we can line up our grain line for the back yoke, and we can use the same grain line here for the front pocket facing. Alright, take out your back patch pocket. Now for this pocket here, realistically, you only need to make 1, and if it looks good, you like it. If you don't like it, you can make it bigger or smaller. So let's just do cut 1. Go ahead and block a single layer of fabric, get your grain line on there, and then you can cut out your pocket. Alright, so let's take a look here at your top bag liner and your under bag liner. Later on, you'll be cutting these in liner fabric, but for now we're just doing everything in muslin. And you're going to want to cut 2 of each. So cut 2 for the top bag, cut 2 for the under bag. Now both of these pattern pieces are about the same size, and also the grain line is here off to this side. So go ahead and block out a piece of fabric, put your grain line on there, and you'll be able to cut out both of these together. Make sure it's 2 layers, of course. Now for me, when I had blocked out my, when I was blocking out my legs, I accidentally did 1 too many. So I'm going to go ahead and just use this for my pocket underbag pattern pieces. Even though I'm wasting a little bit of fabric here, it's okay because I've already cut this out anyways. Alright, so let's go ahead and cut all of these out now. Okay, now that you've cut out all of your pattern pieces, let's go ahead and review these together. And let's start here with the contour waistband. After you cut out the contour waistband, there's a notch here at the side seam, and also a notch here at center front. There's also, I put a notch here at the side seam, but remember this is a little tiny 1/4 inch seam allowance, so I went ahead and I just marked that all using my pencil for this notch here at the top. And just double check that you do have your grain line on all 4 of your muslin pieces. For the back pocket, I just cut a single layer because I'm only going to sew 1 pocket during the mock-up. Don't forget you have notches here at the fold at the top of the pocket. One thing that we could have done is we could have labeled this fold at the top right here. If you want to, you can go ahead and do that now. Inside the pattern piece, we have the drill holes here for the top stitching guide. And then I went ahead and I put those in pencil so it's easy to see when I'm sewing this. And then I lightly put in the fold here at the top and the fold for the seam allowance so I don't forget. Let's take a look here at the back yoke. Just double check that you did 3/4 of an inch seam allowance here at the bottom of the yoke and a double notch. Let's take a look here at our pockets. The front pocket facing, if you remember, we're going to just overlock this bottom edge so there's no extra seam allowance added to that. For the top bag, we have the 1/4 inch seam allowance here, 1 inch seam allowance here, and we have our notch here at the side seam. And then for the underbag, we have the 1 inch seam allowance out here, and we have our notch right here at the side seam. Now keep in mind, if we were going into production, this pattern piece here, I actually have it upside down. The pattern piece would look like this with all of your writing on here. So if you go into production, make sure on the top bag that your pattern piece is upright like this. For us, since we were doing these stacked together and tracing through all of the layers, it was easier for us to do it like this as a beginner. Now when it comes time to start sewing these together, we want to make sure we have the right sides. We want to know what is the right side of the fabric. So take a minute and do this with me now. On the front pocket facing, lay these out to where you can see the grain lines. And let's put a happy face on this so you know that this is the correct side up. Now we're going to do the same thing here with the underbag. And for our top bag. So just make sure you have the grain facing up and this is the correct side up. Okay, so now do this with me. So here's our underbag and our pocket facing. We want to put these with the right sides facing up. And then come over here, here's our top bag. We want the top bag facing down towards it. So as soon as you flip these over, you see you need to switch sides, and then you can get the correct top bag with the correct pockets. Again, so the top bag is facing towards the facing and the underbag. So let's just look at that one more time. We have the underbag is facing up, the facing is facing up, and the top bag is facing down. And all of the notches are matching here, right along with the bottom of the facing. This is the sequence that we're going to sew these up together later. And let's go ahead and pin all these layers together now so we don't lose track of them. Alright, so let's set aside all of our pocket pattern pieces plus the waistband. And we're going to start with the back yoke and the back main body, and we're going to put these together.